Hi, welcome to the Shepherd Podcast. I'm your host. I'm Pastor Chris. Thank you for joining me today for the final episode, the farewell, the finale of the Shepherd Podcast. It has been such a joy to be a part of this ministry. This is our 91st episode, and Melody and I in conversation. She's our director and producer, the person who's been behind the camera and editing throughout the course of the Shepherd Podcast. We felt it was time to move on to some other things, that the podcast had accomplished its purpose, helping us to get to know each other, especially during a time when we couldn't necessarily be together in person. And then even once we could be together in person, it's been such a valuable way to get to know people here at Shepherd. We have so many great people here at our church, school, and childcare. It's been a real pleasure to be able to sit down and have some conversations and get to know others better. And so today, for our final episode, we're going to do what we did in our last episode, and that is we're going to review some of the podcasts over these couple of years, some of the more memorable podcasts. Last time was the early days within the first 20 episodes, and these are episodes that have been filmed since then. So you'll probably see some changes in the way that things were done over the course of time as we evolved and sought to improve what we were doing. And so I hope you'll enjoy this look back, perhaps a review of some episodes you've seen, or maybe some you had not seen before, and it's great to be able to show these to you today. So please enjoy this, a highlight reel, the final episode of the Shepherd Podcast.
And probably about 5 years before I retired, and I said, I'm going to take a chance because, as a public school teacher, you're not supposed to talk about Jesus. So I found out a way to do it. First of all, if the opportunity ever presented itself, for example, if a kid came up to me and said, Mr. Deskin, I just got baptized, I'm not going to leave that alone.
Right.
So, I would have a conversation with that child. But then I took a chance and I said, okay, do kids know why they're off on Good Friday? And I would tell them what I believe. And I said, you and your family may believe differently, and that's okay. You have that right as an American citizen. But this is the way I believe and why I believe this way. Mm-hmm. And I want you to know why you're off because, that is how it got originated, and then it leads to Easter. And I actually had one boy from Syria. He said, can I talk to you more about that Jesus? And wow, I said, this is okay. Yeah. And I made sure that he knew, that this is the way I believe, and this is why I believe, and maybe your family believes differently, but this is what makes me tick.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
This is my strength and my peace, my inner peace.
Yeah.
Never did hear from his parents, so I guess it was okay, or even if he went home and told his parents, but hopefully that happened. That there was a beginning, a seed.
You plant the seed and the Holy Spirit will take it from there.
That's right.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, there was like 10 to 15 people that just barged in the room. There was a chaplain there. There was PICU doctors. There were doctors of all kinds that I didn't even know. They were all in there, head nurses. And they put the breather thing on him, and we're squeezing, and they just kept saying, breathe, I need you to breathe, take some breaths, take some breaths, take some breaths. And they were doing it, and I remember them rubbing his chest, and they're squeezing, and it just, Mark and I are just holding each other like, what's going on?
Wow.
And when I saw a chaplain, I knew it was bad.
Yeah.
That's a giveaway. Something's going really wrong.
Yeah.
And so we just were pushed down of the way and watching everybody do their stuff. And so like I said, I used to think she made a mistake. After going through everything, it was a blessing. I think it was a blessing. God wanted my child in the PICU. I think if they didn't put him in the PICU that night, I don't think he would have made it.
Really?
I 100% believe that.
Wow.
I think God had to scare us to really make him survive. Okay. So immediately we were rushed to PICU, and they hooked him up to all these machines and everything. And yeah, so then they put an oxygen thing on him, and the next day was scarier.
Scarier than that?
Yeah, well, no, that was pretty scary. Yeah, it was touch and go. It was touch and go with him really? On making it. I remember he just wasn't getting enough oxygen, and she did accidentally turn the oxygen machine off.
Oh, no.
But they had to intubate him.
Yeah.
And so he was intubated, and that was just scary because my 9-day-old kid has to have a tube in him to survive. And
we're talking 9 days old.
9 days old.
And all this is going on.
9 days old,
Wow.
and they're putting this tube in him, and just seeing him lay there with a tube in his mouth, and it was scary.
Yeah.
And then, let's see, that was a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So he was doing great. He was doing awesome. They're like, wow, he's healing so fast. He's doing great. He's breathing. They lowered the oxygen. They said, man, I think he's going to be able to go home in a few days. All right. So we're excited. And then they extubated him. They took the tube out of him.
Yeah.
And it was exciting. You know, I could hand feed my baby again. And it was great. And then it just took a turn for the worst. It was a Monday. And all day, we couldn't soothe him. Something was wrong. I knew it, a mom's feeling. Mark knew something. Something was wrong. And we kept telling the nurse, hey, we want to see the doctor. All day. This started at 8 o'clock in the morning. So we went down to, it was finally 3:30 in the afternoon, 4. And finally, they sent, there was not an intern, but there was another doctor there that was, going around and learning. And they did blood from him, and they were like, all of a sudden, 10 to 15 doctors rush in.
Oh, no, again.
10 to 15 doctors rush in. You just see white coats everywhere coming in. Yeah. And we're like, oh, man. We knew something was wrong, and we finally got a doctor in there, and they were like, we're going to have to intubate him again. I was like, okay. And they're like, this time we don't want you to stand out the doors. You need to go in the waiting room.
You couldn't be in the room?
We couldn't be around this time.
Oh, wow.
And Mark and I knew something was wrong.
Really wrong.
We were standing outside, or we didn't go in the waiting room. It was too full. We wanted our privacy, so we were in the hallway. And, it was scary. And I remember Mark and I saying to each other, we don't want him to die.
Let me ask you, what's his condition now?
Perfectly healthy.
Oh, that's so
great. He's the school greeter. I don't know if you've seen him or not. He'll come by and walk and say, hi, good morning.
So he's perfectly healthy.
Perfectly healthy.
Oh, that is so great.
It just had to have a rough start, but
what a miracle.
He is a joyous, fun, loving kid.
He's a miracle boy.
He is a miracle boy. Everybody loves seeing him, and he is a happy kid. You wouldn't know that he had surgery. God, only the scar will show you.
Wow.
That's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is one fact about Alice that most people might not know?
Then I was going to tell you about the Estonia trip. I went to Estonia just a year or so before I retired, and that has been a milestone in my ministry, not because I did much, I just taught English, but I discovered the little country of Estonia. It's a fairy tale place that was over 90% Lutheran before the Soviet occupation, and then it flip-flopped, and now it's like 90% unchurched.
Yeah, yeah.
And I met the Lutheran family there that is, their goal is to bring Estonia back to Jesus. And, go to, what is their, it's TAT, Tartu Academy of Theology, EST for Estonia.org. And what a story that is. And I'm still meeting with the pastor there, and I support them financially. It was, I don't know, it's just a real God thing. I just felt so drawn by God to get involved with that fairy tale country.
Was that the one where you stopped by my house one time so I could help fill out a application to apply for a grant? I remember reading, about the situation as a part of that, and definitely a great mission opportunity.
Right. We didn't get the grant, but other things have happened. Yes, I think I had 45 minutes to get that to the post office.
Yes, I remember things were moving fast at that point. Yeah.
Oh, what was your other question?
Well, I was going to ask, what is one thing about Alice that most people might not know?
I thought about that question. I thought of a couple things that are really embarrassing to me, so I'll
Oh, good. Here we go now.
Oh.
You don't have to share anything you don't want to. And any non-embarrassing things you'd like to share.
Well, everybody knows everything else about me.
Oh, okay.
I won a cow judging contest once.
I'm sorry, say more?
I won a cow judging contest.
You won a cow judging contest?
Yes.
How do you win a cow judging contest?
Just like a beauty contest. You have these cows lined up, and I was in 6th grade, I think. You have these cows lined up, and you look at them. And you look for different things.
And what did you do to make your cow so beautiful?
It wasn't my cow. I was judging.
You were the judge. I thought you said you won the contest.
Well, I did. I won a cow judging contest because there were a bunch of us younger people that were judging the cows, and then they had a professional cow judger, and I chose the same cows. This is so ridiculous.
You were good at judging cows.
I was good at. If anybody needs their cows judged, I can maybe help.
You think you could do that today?
I might remember. I'm not sure.
Wow. There's another podcast right there. Yeah. Okay. It seems like you are someone who works well with adults and with other peers, like the teachers, and also someone who connects very well with the kids. That's always been one of my observations about you is the kids just really seem to gravitate toward you, to respect you, and to enjoy learning from you. What would you say you feel are some of the keys to connecting with junior high students?
Right. So one of the funny things about teaching middle school is that I often will hear teachers who don't teach middle school, but will sometimes have interactions with middle school students. Oh, I don't know how you do it. There's the teenage attitude sometimes and things like that. And I kind of laugh at that because if, say, that's a teacher who teaches elementary, I tell them, well, I don't know how you do it with elementary kids and things. So I think some teachers could teach a wide variety of grades and it wouldn't matter, but I think some people are better suited to certain age levels. And for me, I've always just really gravitated to middle school kids. One of the reasons for that, I think, is that middle schoolers are kind of a mess of contradictions, and I'm a very analytical person, so I like to analyze that and try to figure that out. One day they're super happy-go-lucky and very proactive in class participation and stuff like that, and then the next day they're super jaded and sullen and unwilling to actively participate, and I like that sort of puzzle in trying to figure that out. And also, really, most people probably wouldn't guess this about me because in most cases I'm pretty quiet and reserved, but when I'm in a place that I'm comfortable, like my classroom or my own home, my wife can attest to this, I'm kind of sometimes maybe a little bit of a goofball and a little immature about some things because I like to have fun. I like to not take myself too seriously. And so I think that helps me relate to my students. So for example, whenever I can, I try to incorporate some unusual things into, what it is we have to learn. So whether that's, putting on a Hulk mask as we read superhero poetry and acting like I'm the Hulk, Incredible Hulk, or I've done, lessons with kids where we did we combined science fiction writing with actual science. And so we did things where we dressed up in lab coats and, I would wear the mad scientist hair and stuff like that. And so I like, combining some of that entertainment into the instruction so that, it's engaging for the kids and, I don't take myself so seriously that I can't do those sorts of things. And I think that helps me connect with the kids a lot as well.
Yeah.
So, I would say music has especially enriched my faith journey. And it's kind of, I would say, marked a lot of big points in my life with my faith too. So it's really neat to think about music in relation to my faith journey. In fact, one of the main reasons I realized, God totally led me here to the music therapy profession was my sophomore year of college. And we did a big benefit concert, and it wasn't one that I coordinated this time. After this, then that's when I started coordinating a lot of military benefit concerts. But it was the first, it was a choir concert we did at Pepperdine, and we did this unbelievably beautiful piece of music. And then we created a benefit concert for a local nonprofit in LA. And that truly marked a big moment in my faith journey. I had been kind of low on faith for a little bit. I was feeling very discouraged and down and had a lot of doubts for a while. But when that experience happened my sophomore year, it reignited my love for Jesus and my passion for helping others and being the hands and feet of Jesus. And, and it's just so interesting how it tied together not only music and faith, but my love for the military and my realization of the needs for people struggling with different mental health disorders in the military. And so that was probably one of the most pivotal experiences in my life so far.
But Grief Share, it seems like you really found a niche where you could use your gifts and passions and your life experiences to help others. Can you tell us about how you got into Grief Share?
First, it's important to tell the story of what happened.
Yeah.
And August 18th was a Friday evening, and Rhonda and I were at home, and we were getting ready to go to bed. And Rhonda was saying she'd been feeling a little ill, but nothing serious that we thought. And Rhonda said, I wonder if I'm having heart issues. And we kind of just dismissed it. Let's take it easy. Then on August 21st, I had bowling that night, and it was coming up on the 4-year anniversary of her passing. I can't believe it's been 4 years. But it was, I bowled in 9-pin bowling in the little town of Bracken, which is way out on northeast side of San Antonio. And on those nights when I would go out there, I would always call Rhonda, and we would talk on the way. I would pick up something to eat, and then go bowl, and then come home after bowling. I would always call her around 5 o'clock. And I called her at 5 o'clock, and how you feeling, sweetie? And I'm feeling good, just a little tired. Well, at 6:09, she called me, and the entire conversation was, honey, I think I'm having a heart attack. And I said, call 911, I'm on my way. And that was one of my biggest regrets in life was I didn't say I love you, because I didn't think anything about it at the time. I ran inside the bowling alley, told them what was happening, and I called a neighbor to go be with Rhonda, and within a few minutes they called me back and said they're taking her to the heart hospital over there, the Methodist Heart Hospital, which is right there at 10 and 410. So I drove straight over there, and I called Rhonda's sister to let them know what was going on. I got over there, and at 7:01, she was pronounced dead. I mean, it was that fast. And I got to go in and see her before they'd pronounced her dead. I mean, they were working on her. But when I grabbed her hand, I have a feeling she was already gone. There was nothing there, you know. But, you know, you hold out hope and everything. And then, you know, she, at 7:01, they pronounced her dead, and they came in and told me. And I was mad. I was mad at God. I was mad at the world at that time. You know, just it was such a shock to the system. A minister came in. I don't know who he is. I don't know what faith he was. And he prayed with me. And then one of the things he told me was, from now on, whatever you do, you have to do for Mark. Rhonda is taken care of. Rhonda is taken care of. Don't worry about Rhonda. Everything is going to be fine with Rhonda. She's in a wonderful place.
Right.
I remember those words, but I don't remember the minister. And I always felt bad that I didn't know who that was. Anyway, so I was struggling. I was really, really struggling. And here at Shepherd at the time, we had the Stevens Ministries, and we got a set of books over the year about grief. And I remember reading in one of them that said, you're not a doctor, so don't feel bad that you didn't recognize what was going on. But I did. I don't care what you read. I felt it was my fault. It was my fault. And then I got an email from this wonderful philosopher by the name of Chris, and in there he put in a text that said, Jesus loved you enough to give you grace. You need to love yourself enough to give you grace. And that really hit me. So, Pastor Chris, thank you very much. That was one of the first things that got me over one of the humps. But I was still struggling. And then the holidays were coming up. And at the time, we were working with a funeral home here to offer grief in the holidays. Right. I went to that, and it was so disappointing in that the person that did it, she kept calling Rhonda Wanda. Even though she wrote down Rhonda, every time she would mention the name, it was Wanda. And Dudley Higginbotham was in that group. And instead of calling his wife Stella, it was Shirley. I don't know how he came up. Anyway, me and Dudley were just looking at each other, and I didn't know Dudley at the time, and we just both were looking at each other like, you know, just shaking our heads. How can you do this? So anyway, I knew I could do better, you know, and I made the mistake of mentioning it to Alice Clement. And the next thing I know, Alice says, we have this program called Grief Share, but we don't have anybody to lead it. And I went, I don't know. That's just not my thing. You know, I don't know. And of course, everybody knows, Alice knows, if you tell her no, that means maybe. And so Alice kept after me, and finally I said, okay, let me think about it. She gave me the material, and we did a trial run. It was Dudley Higginbotham, myself, and Vern Clausen. And we just went through it at our own pace, just on our own. And I really liked some of the things I heard in the program. And so I said, I'll do it, but we have to get the new version. We had an out-of-date version. And so we started with a small group of like 8 or 9 people. Mickey was in that group, Mickey Sinclair. And it really went off well, and I really got to liking it. And there's a couple of Bible verses and a couple of things I heard in there. And so then our second group was 19 members, and that was the largest group. And that group just was incredible. And some of the things you see in there and you hear from them, and how seeing the growth of the people, it just makes the world. You know, you see them. When they first come, they can't even tell the story of what happened to the end where they, you know, you see the growth in them individually. And from there, I was committed.
Well, there you have it, the final episode of the Shepherd Podcast. This has been such a great ministry, and I hope you enjoyed watching some of those previous episodes, a highlight reel, some of those memorable parts of our conversations that we've had over these past couple years. I'm joined now on the set by our director and producer, Melody Smith. She's been behind the camera for every episode. I think Lauren stepped in a couple times, but Melody's been the one who has been producing it. She's been editing the podcast and setting up interviews, so she's done a lot of work on this. So as I explained earlier, Melody, we're looking forward to expanding on the ministry, doing some other things now, more with member calls, with community outreach, with guest follow-up, which is a big part of your ministry. So you want to say anything more about where do we go from here?
Sure. I'm, like you said, it's bittersweet to wrap up the podcast. Like, I agree with you. It's been one of my favorite ministries. But our time now can be spent doing more face-to-face relationship building and just fellowship in person. Mm-hmm. So, you know, on with new things. Yeah.
So we've been doing this together for a couple years. It's really been an enjoyable ministry to think about all the people we've been able to have on the set, get to visit with, hear their stories. What have been some of your favorite things about being a part of the podcast?
Hands down, getting to know people.
Yep.
I see these people every day, well, every Sunday, in passing. We say hello, how are you? But if it wasn't for this podcast, I wouldn't have had an opportunity to sit with almost 90 people, right? Yeah. And actually hear their story for 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. So we got to know them personally, and that was just irreplaceable for me. I enjoyed that so much. Behind the camera, I cried on more than one occasion. I laughed. I had to hide my laughter so the mics wouldn't pick me up. Yeah. It's just been so much fun.
Yeah, I agree. I have just thoroughly enjoyed the chance to get to know our people better. And if not for this ministry, wouldn't have really had those opportunities. Yeah. It would have been more, conversations in passing, or I always feel like the time I really get to sit and know someone is when they're in the hospital and I visit them and we get to talk for 30 or 45 minutes. Right. And this way people didn't have to go to the hospital for us to have a conversation.
Yeah, it was on better terms, lighter terms.
Absolutely. So it's been so great. And we have so many wonderful people here at Shepherd to get to know.
Agreed. That's the only sad part is there's so many more. There's endless number of people that we could have sat down still and gotten to know better. So now the goal is to do that in person.
Absolutely. And we feel confident with the decision and the direction that we're going. And we can also look back and see, I think both of us, how we feel like we've grown in ministry. We've grown in particular skills. So what would you say would be some ways that you've grown over these past couple years because of doing the podcast?
Oh, I've learned from scratch how to do this kind of stuff. The only, I guess, knowledge that I brought into it was photography. So I sort of knew how to set up a camera. But if you look at the first episode from last week's highlight, compared to our production quality now, it's just night and day. So that has been a huge blessing to me. And who knows how God's going to use that and our technology and our new skills moving forward. So that's something that we learned and we gained that will be a good tool for us to have now. Absolutely.
And I feel for myself, I've become a lot more comfortable in this kind of a situation. I remember when I started out, I would stick pretty close to my questions. And then as time went on, I felt like I could just remember what those questions were. And it was just more of a natural conversation. So I've certainly enjoyed growing in those kinds of things.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I want to say thank you to you for all your hard work, countless hours. It's been a real blessing to the ministry of Shepherd of the Hills working on this and looking forward to all that is to come.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's definitely been a pleasure. Like I said, it doesn't feel like work. It's been one of my favorite things to do. And thank you so much to everybody who's come and sat down to interview.
Yes.
They've taken time out of their day to come and sit with us. And it's nerve-wracking being on this side of it. It goes by fast once you're here talking to Pastor Chris because he's a professional podcast interviewer. But it's still just, it's something that we're asking people to come and sit here and do and sacrifice their time. So thank you to everyone who's done that for us. And thank you to all the viewers because without viewership, we wouldn't have continued this for 2 years.
That's true.
So we've had loyal viewers and just thank you so much for listening and watching the podcast.
I could not say it any better. I echo everything Melody just said. Thank you so much for your viewership. Thank you for your participation. It's been a great joy. And so we'll look forward to seeing you in other ministries. The Lord's blessings to you today. May He keep you healthy and safe and strong. And the peace of the Lord be with you today and always.